What have been the main drivers of the worsening in housing affordability in New Zealand?
Interesting. So worsening's a relative term. It's improving obviously if you own a home, because capital growth is obviously good if you're an owner of a home. So it's worsening in respect to first home buyers. It's been a number of drivers. A couple of the major ones would be the cost of money, which has been lower. So that's enabled people to spend more on a house than they might previously have been able to spend because they can afford more with lower interest rates. Another one has been demand being outstripping supply, and that's mainly been led, although not completely, by a massive increase in migration over the last 5 or 10 years in New Zealand, which has led to a much larger number of people coming into the country, particularly to Auckland. And so the effect of that has been that there's been a much greater demand than in previous years. There hasn't been enough houses to keep up with that demand, and so that's also had the effect of pushing prices up. The third thing which has played into this is that there is a natural cycle to property prices within New Zealand. Property prices, particularly in Auckland, double in value roughly every 10 to 12 years. And so that's also been playing into these figures, and obviously a doubling in any decade is a doubling over that previous year's price. So it means that that situation gets worse and worse depending on how far you are into any particular cycle.
Do you think housing affordability, particularly for that group of buyers, is actually just becoming too difficult to address? Is the problem just too bad now?
The fact that prices are roughly doubling in value every 10 years, the fact that they are continuing to increase relative to wages means that that situation is going to get harder and harder, both for first home buyers and in fact for anybody getting into the market.
Are we generating enough stock of quality homes for people?
Well, there's two aspects to quality. There's new homes, obviously, and so you would assume that new homes are being built to a standard. Obviously, there are standards that are mandated when you're constructing a new property. I think the bigger issue is around existing dwellings and what's happening with those. And there's really two aspects to that. There's quality with regard to health. In other words, is a home a healthy environment? Is it warm? Is it draft free? Is it leak free? Is it free of mould? Issues that people are going to consider when it comes to actually whether that's a healthy, habitable environment for people. And most of those issues are actually being resolved now by legislation. So there's some legislation coming out over the next couple of years that will effectively mandate what a home must actually provide in order to be regarded as a healthy home. And there's measures like the Green Building Council's Homestar 6, which is that they're regarding as a minimum standard for health. But the other side to that is around aesthetics. And so people buying homes in areas where the house isn't necessarily up to what we would regard as an aesthetics standard. And so that's resolved in a couple of different ways. In some cases, people buy those houses, do them up and sell them back into the market. Those are traders or renovators, and they're generally regarded as a bit of a blight on the market, but they do actually perform a public service in that to the extent that they are doing houses up, they're actually improving the stock overall. But most people buy a house and they'll do it up. So particularly with a first home buyers, they'll buy a house that might need a little bit of work, they'll move into that house, they might spend 3 or 4 years doing it up, and they'll actually improve it, and that will make it into a better property. And in fact, that blank canvas element to it is actually something that makes that a worthwhile exercise and enables them to get a bit of growth out of the value and eventually sell it and buy a better home.